Imagine you are sitting in a quiet classroom and suddenly the person next to you begins to cough. Within a few minutes another student across the room starts to cough as well. Soon half of the room is rubbing their eyes and complaining of a strange itch on their skin. You look around and you feel a sense of panic rising in your own chest. You wonder if there is something in the air or perhaps a chemical leak in the hallway. Doctors arrive and they run every test possible. They check the water and they check the ventilation system and they look for viruses. But the results always come back the same. Everything is perfectly normal. There is no poison and there is no bacteria. Yet the symptoms are very real. People are actually suffering. Their skin is red and their throats are sore. This is the strange and fascinating world of mass psychogenic illness. It is a mystery that sits right at the intersection of our bodies and our social lives. We often think of our health as something that happens only inside our own skin. We believe that if we feel sick it must be because of something physical that we touched or ate. But the reality is that we are much more connected to each other than we realize. Our minds and our bodies are constantly talking to each other, and sometimes our minds can pick up on the distress of those around us and turn it into physical pain. To understand this, we must first look at the surface concept of how we view sickness. Normally we look for an organic cause. If you have a broken leg, we expect to see it on an X-ray. If you have a fever, we expect to see a virus in your blood. This is how modern medicine works. It looks for a visible enemy to fight. When we see a group of people getting sick all at once, our first thought is always a physical contagion. We think of a food poisoning at a party or a flu spreading through an office. This is a very comfortable way to think because it means we can fix the problem by cleaning the kitchen or giving a vaccine. On the surface, it seems impossible that a physical rash could appear on your arm just because you are worried. We tend to separate the mind from the body as if they live in two different houses. We think that thoughts stay in our heads and symptoms stay in our bodies. But mass hysteria shows us that the walls between the mind and the body are very thin. In fact, they are almost invisible. This brings us to a hidden assumption that many of us carry without knowing it. We often assume that if a doctor cannot find a physical cause for a symptom, then the person must be faking it. We use phrases like "it is all in your head" to suggest that the pain is not real. This is a very lonely and painful assumption for those who are suffering. The hidden truth is that a symptom can be medically unexplained but still physically felt. Your brain is the most powerful pharmacy in the world. It can create real physical changes in your skin and your muscles and your nerves based on the stress you feel. We assume that our bodies are independent machines, but the truth is that our bodies are highly social. We are constantly scanning the people around us for signs of danger. If you see your best friend in pain, your brain might start to simulate that same pain as a way of being connected. This is not a choice you make. It is a deep biological reflex. We assume we are in total control of our physical reactions, but mass hysteria proves that our environment and our relationships have a vote in how we feel. If we look at the structural pattern of these events, we see that they almost never happen to people who are alone. They follow the lines of our social networks. They spread among students in a small town school or workers on a busy factory floor or even among people living together in a quiet convent. The pattern is one of deep connection. The more connected we are to each other, the more likely we are to catch each other's stress. There is usually an underlying trauma or a cloud of fear hanging over the group before the symptoms begin. For example, think back to a time when the whole world was afraid of a new disease or a hidden threat. In moments of great public anxiety, our bodies become like radios tuned to a very sensitive frequency. We start to interpret every small itch or every slight headache as a sign of the big threat we are all talking about. The pattern is not random. It is a function of how much we trust and look at the people around us. When one person shows a sign of distress, it acts like a signal to the rest of the group that the danger is real. This structural pattern tells us that our health is not just a personal matter but a community matter. We can reframe our entire perspective on this by seeing mass hysteria not as a sign of weakness but as a sign of our incredible empathy. Instead of thinking of it as a failure of the brain, we can see it as a very intense form of social communication. Our bodies are speaking for us when we do not have the words to express our fear. When a student gets a mystery rash that disappears at home but returns at school, the body is saying that the school environment feels unsafe. The body is sounding an alarm that the mind has tried to ignore. By reframing these events as social and cultural messages, we can stop looking for invisible poisons and start looking for the real stress that is hurting people. We can stop blaming the victims and start listening to the collective anxiety of the group. This new perspective allows us to be much more compassionate. It helps us realize that we are all vulnerable to the emotions of those we love. We are all part of a larger social body that reacts to the world together. Applying this to our daily life means being more aware of how the moods and the health of our friends and family affect our own well-being. Have you ever noticed that you feel a headache coming on after spending an afternoon with a very stressed coworker? Or maybe you feel more tired when everyone in your house is complaining about being exhausted. This is a mild version of the same social contagion. We can apply this knowledge by being more careful about the information we consume and the fear we spread. In a world of constant news and social media, fear can travel faster than any virus. We should ask ourselves if the stress we feel is truly ours or if we have picked it up from the digital world around us. We can also use this power for good. If fear can spread through a group, then calm and peace can also spread. We can choose to be the person who brings a sense of safety to the room. By staying grounded and calm, we can help the nervous systems of the people around us to settle down. We can be a positive contagion. This deepening of our understanding helps us build more resilient communities. We start to realize that taking care of our own mental health is a gift to everyone we know because it makes the whole network a little bit safer. We can stop being afraid of the idea of mass hysteria and start respecting it as a real part of being human. It is a reminder that we are never truly alone and that our hearts and minds are always reaching out to one another. Even when it feels like we are suffering in silence, our bodies are connected to a larger story. We should look at our connections not as a source of danger but as a source of strength. When we understand the power of our social bonds, we can work together to lower the collective stress of our schools and our workplaces. We can create environments where the body does not feel the need to sound a false alarm. This is the ultimate goal of learning to believe in this rare but real phenomenon. It is about understanding the deep and beautiful ways that we are all linked. As we move through our days, we can keep a gentle eye on how we are influencing the people around us. We can remember that a smile or a deep breath can be just as contagious as a cough or a rash. We are the keepers of each other's peace. By recognizing the thin line between our minds and our bodies, we can live with more wisdom and less fear. We can face the challenges of the world with a clear head and a steady heart, knowing that we are all in this together. This journey of understanding our shared biology is a path to a more kind and connected world. It is a story of how we care for each other even when we do not realize we are doing it. When you think about the last time you felt a sudden change in your own mood or physical comfort while being in a group of people who were all feeling the same thing, how would your response change if you looked past the physical symptoms and asked what common fear or secret stress was the whole group trying to express without using any words?